we really be friends with our exes? Big question a lot of us are asking, and there is no black and white, straightforward, simple answer to this. This is why I'm breaking this topic down in this episode. I'm so excited to dive into this. But what I will say is there may be a lot of us out there that are trying to be friends with our exes when really we're hoping for something more, when not everybody should be friends with their exes. Are we trying to do the mature thing when really we're self-abandoning yet again? Are we in some situationship cosplay and calling it friendship and texting our ex? So I'm going to play for both sides here because there are some exes that I am friends with, and I'm going to share with you what that looks like, and some exes that I'm absolutely not friends with and have blocked them from my life forever, and what that looks like. I'm going to share my personal stories. So if you're currently texting an ex or thinking about starting to develop a friendship with one, this episode is for you. So let's get to it. If you're going through a breakup or you're stuck in an on again, off again situationship or still low key obsessed with an ex from 3 years ago, I've created a free 7-day breakup detox checklist. Now, this is designed to help you cleanse any old ex energy out of your system and serve that eviction note finally to that ex who is living rent free in your head. Over 7 days, I'm going to walk you through simple nervous system friendly steps to help you calm the emotional storm in your body, manage those withdrawal symptoms, stop doom scrolling their socials just to see, clear out the breakup clutter in your space, and start reclaiming your joy, your self-respect, your power. Now, I gotta be honest with you, my loves, it is not a be over it in a week scheme, but it will give you structure, support, and daily tiny wins so you're not just raw dogging heartbreak with no plan. So if you're ready to start detoxing your ex and step into a much cleaner energy for 2026, you can download the 7-day breakup detox checklist for free. Just head to the link in the show notes and it will be in your inbox immediately and you can start detoxing. All right, loves, welcome back to the Relationship Rehab Podcast, or welcome if you're new here. I am Samantha, your host and attachment trauma specialist. And today we are talking about breakups and whether we can start to develop friendships with our exes. Now, I'm going to give you the simple short form answer right away, and it really does all depend on how that relationship unfolded and ended. Now, what I will say right off the bat, if it was an abusive relationship, neglectful, unhealthy in any type of way, then absolutely not. You should be friends with that person. And if you still have some sort of feelings, if you still want to get back with this person and you're hoping that through developing a friendship with them that they can see how amazing you are and change their minds, that is also an alarm bell for you to notice in yourself that this is happening, and maybe moving forward with a friendship with your ex is not the best thing for you right now. Even if you believe that getting back together is the best thing for you guys, there is a reason why you've gotten to this place so far where you are calling each other exes, and that needs to be resolved first and foremost. And both people need to be on the same page. If getting back together and repairing the relationship is something that is on the cards for you, is this person in the same spot? Because best believe, speaking from experience, you put yourself in the situation where you think you can be friends with this person because they're a great person and you want them in your life in some sort of capacity. You don't want to lose them completely. But then they start to move on and they start to date other people and even get into another relationship. That is going to freaking hurt. That's going to sting to your core. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to see your ex moving on? If the answer is no, then again, this is information for you to start to develop your own understanding of whether a friendship is the best course of action for you two at the moment. But I get it. I know I'm calling you out right away and you're like, oh, hit me with the bat there, Samantha. But I just wanted to give it to you straight because I get it. I understand what it's like to be in the space where you just You would rather have a friendship with this person than lose them completely. I get it. Because they meant so much to you at one point, especially if you've been together for years. And then you see that time is just gone, it's just wasted. Why can't we be friends? And I'm not saying that you can never be friends. And again, I'm going to share a personal story in a moment, but not right now. And I was in that space where it's better than nothing. I'm going to be your friend. I'm going to make this work. But let's be honest with ourselves. Are we just stepping into another form of self-abandonment by doing that? Are we not putting ourselves first in this space, but instead we're speaking from our anxious attachment? And when we are anxiously attached to someone, we want to cling to any type of connection. If it's a friendship, sure, fine. I'll cling to that. I'll take it because it's better than not being in each other's lives. And that doesn't make us weak. That doesn't make us unhealthy in any way. It just makes us human because what we want is to keep that love, keep that connection. But when we are in this predicament of going into a friendship or not, we have to be honest with ourselves. And I hope that this episode really does help you to get honest with yourself. And like I said, when you make a decision to be friends or to not be friends with an ex in this moment, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be like that forever. Okay. So let me take you on a bit of a journey, some story time here. And the reason why I brought this topic to the podcast is because I put a reel on my Instagram about how one of my exes and I are still very good friends right now. And we went through pregnancy loss together a couple of years ago where we lost a baby and we are supporting each other in continuing to process that and heal from that. And when I reflect upon this particular relationship and why we were able to get ourselves to the space where we are friends, and there was no in between really. There was no like, okay, we need to come away from each other and then come back as friendships. We just went from being romantic partners into friends. One, because the relationship was not abusive or full of chaos and drama and unhealthy toxic patterns. Okay, that was a bit of an exaggeration. There were some slithers. No relationship is perfect, right? There were some slithers, but we were able to work through them in the relationship. The breakup itself was not because someone hurt someone else or because there was any betrayal or because there was any pain caused. It was a it was a somewhat mutual breakup initiated by myself where we recognized that there were some things that were just not quite lining up, that there were some values that were out of place. And even though we were amazing together short term, I just couldn't see it developing into a more long-term relationship on my end. Now, the breakup was a beautiful one. We did some conscious uncoupling. We went traveling together afterwards, and we were able to just slowly separate from each other in a very loving way. And another thing to recognize when you are considering this question for yourself that I picked up on in my own story here is, am I genuinely wanting the best for this person? I want genuinely the best for me. So that's why I initiated the breakup. And I want the best for him. That's why I initiated the breakup. I want us to move forward with our lives in a way that's going to make us both feel very fulfilled and happy, even if it's not with each other. Now, a lot of people would say that, yeah, that's the mature way to be. And yeah, it is. But it took a hell a long time for me to get to this place where I didn't fall into being jealous or being possessive or being in a way that this person has done something horrible to me, because he didn't. He didn't. So I would encourage you to look at how this breakup started. And that was the one thing that stands out in our story, is that we had a very peaceful breakup. We supported each other through the breakup because it felt right for us. Again, guys, when you're listening to my stories or anyone else's stories, as you're doing your research and you're considering this for yourself, even consulting ChatGPT, because let's be honest, who isn't doing that these days? I want you to come back to your truth, to what feels right for you. Get best friends with your own body. When you are around this person, right? Let's say hypothetically you're trying to be in friendship with this person. When you're around them, how do you feel? Are you asking yourself that question? Do you feel sad that you're no longer together? Do you feel hopeful that things will start to rekindle again? That is information for you to recognize that maybe a friendship is not the best idea for you right now? Or do you feel mutual? Do you feel calm? Do you feel like you can come away from this connection and not be overthinking and overstimulated and not wanting him to reach out and falling back into this sticky, messy situationship that a lot of relationships tend to gravitate into when people are trying to develop friendships too soon? Instead of a friendship, it becomes a situationship where maybe you're still having intimacy with each other, but now you're just like friends with benefits. If that works for you, go ahead. Who am I to tell you what is your truth? If that genuinely works for you, great. That's amazing. But chances are, if you're here right now listening to this episode and you do resonate with having an anxious attachment and then you're on your healing journey, I just want you to take a step back here and just ask those very important questions of whether this is something that is right for you. And I'm talking about now in the short term, not long term, or I think I'll be fine eventually. No, how do you feel right now in this moment? So when I think about my ex that I'm really good friends with, and I'm thinking about these things of him moving on and dating and maybe even finding a new partner. Of course, there's like this feeling of, oh, why wouldn't there be? We're human, right? Like we loved this person. We were in a very deep romantic connection with each other. Of course, there's going to be some flutters of discomfort, but it's not going to overthrow me into the depths of despair. If anything, I'll feel it and I'm like, do you know what? I'm really happy for him. I hope that she is a really good woman and she is more compatible and a better match for him. And I would really hope and like to think that he would think the same for my journey and for me as well. All in all, it can be a beautiful thing to be friends with your ex when we can get to that spot, right? So now I'll quickly share a story of an ex where we tried to be friends and it actually just drew out the pain, drew out the suffering and the healing, and was just not the best choice for us at all. So this particular ex I was with for a couple of years, we even lived with him and his family. Like it was a very intense relationship that we had with each other. And of course, in the moment, you don't want to let each other go. Like, you don't want to think that you're never going to talk to this person again and that everything that you've done with each other and the time that you spent was all for nothing. You want to at least try. That's what I was thinking back then. I want to at least try, not really considering what's best for me, but more reacting to the sadness that I felt around us not being in each other's lives anymore, especially when there's family involved or pets or something, right? That mutual friends, even something that is going to gravitate you guys towards each other, even children. And I know I think it's amazing that parents can co-parent and be friends for their children. But again, it's the same applies though. If you force it, if you rush it, it's not doing yourselves or your children any good until you've gone through your healing process and then you can come back and reconsider the question. So we're like, yeah, we can be friends because we're both now moving to different countries. And my biggest motivation was I wanted to stay in with the family. I wanted to stay connected to the family. And I didn't even consider that I could do that without being in contact with him. He was quite resistant at first. He didn't want to be friends. He had this rule that he is never friends with his exes, and people do have their rules, and that's fine. But I was pushing it. I was pushing it and I was like, we can at least stay in touch and stay in contact. But he was very resistant. And I should have known right there and then that I had to make a break for it, but it just was not an option for me at that point. And there was just no positive that came out of me trying to force a friendship between us because everything he did hurt me. When he changed his Facebook profile picture, that hurt. When he set a boundary with me, that hurt. When he wouldn't text me back, that hurt. So what I was doing was just keeping myself in a state of suffering for what? For what? To keep this person in my life for what? Hi. But I think eventually I recognized that this was not going to work out and that there was no way that we could be friends because I was just being hurt all the time and I was abandoning myself. And deep down, secretly, I was hoping that this would just be a phase. And as long as we can keep each other in each other's lives, we'll eventually come back together. So he made the decision, right? That's it. We cannot be in contact anymore. Going no contact. And as we all know, no contact is so painful and unbearable at times. But it had to be done. It had to be done. And I knew it was the best thing for me. But I just couldn't sit around. I just couldn't sit around and be in no contact. And I was a mess, really. I couldn't work, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. And so I booked myself a holiday because I knew I just had to get out of the environment because I was still living with this family at this point. Had to get out of the environment. So I took some time off work and I went somewhere else here in Thailand and just took some time for myself and grieved and put my phone away and just completely immersed myself in the retreat that I was in, a yoga and meditation retreat. And I just used that time to completely grieve. I was in nature for most of the day, and it was the best decision I could have ever done for myself to be able to grieve. Anyway, I digress. So the friendship between us was never truly developed until 6 years later. And 6 years later is this year. So he randomly reaches out to me after 6 years of not speaking, like of no contact, basically. And at this point, we've both moved on with other partners and other life experiences. And I remember when he got in touch and he said that he was going to be in the UK and if we wanted to get a coffee, there was this feeling of excitement. Not because I wanted to get back with him. This is the differentiation that I want to make here. I wasn't excited because I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's come back into my life. I was excited because I knew the amount of work that I've done on myself and the way and where I'm at right now, like I've made it my life's work to be able to support other women and men going through anxious attachment to be able to heal, become more securely attached. I have done that process for myself. And I was excited to meet this person that is a part of my past. He knows me as anxiously attached Sammy, and now I'm securely attached Samantha. And there was a part of me that wanted him to meet this person, but there was a part of me that wanted to be challenged in a way of like, how can I meet this person from my past? How can we be in a space where we can reflect upon our relationship, maybe pull up some lessons that I may not have been willing to hear back then or be ready to receive, and just have that conversation and just see where this connection flows. And it was probably one of the best days of the summer because one, I recognized that there was no feelings whatsoever towards this person, which is wild because he was my whole world at one point and I was so in love with him. But that's what giving yourself space, and when I say space, it could be years to grieve, to move on, to have other partners, to come back to yourself, to really see this experience as something that is well and truly in your past. That's a bonus, right? That I didn't feel any feelings towards him. And I was able to really sit with him face to face as two human beings coming together They once upon a time were madly in love with each other, and now 6 years later, we're talking, we're like, what the hell was that about? And it was just, we spent hours just talking through everything and laughing about, gosh, you remember that time when we did that and I lost and I went off my rocker and you did this? And it's like, oh, geez. But there was this lightness about the conversation. And I was just grinning from year to year after that meeting because one, it verified to me how much I have grown and healed. We were talking about instances in the relationship. I'm like, oh my God, I did do that, didn't I? Oh my God, you, that did happen between us. So you did that. And we're like, wow, our younger selves were in this space. And now I'm not there at all. So one, that was just an incredible realization for me personally to see how far I've come because we forget sometimes the progress that we make ourselves because we're so focused on all the ways that we still need to improve and we still need to heal and we still need to grow. But do we ever take a minute to reflect on the journey behind us? So I feel like this meetup, this conversation was a really great moment for me to do that. And two, it just confirms that we don't necessarily need a friendship. I'm not friends with this person like I am with my most recent ex. This person's not now in my life. But what we have done is we've healed. We've shifted a lot of the past muck that we shared with each other, and we have well and truly thrown it into the vortex of the past. And I'm so glad I was able to have that experience. And who's to say that won't happen for you too? If you give yourself the space to say to this person, one day I hope that we can come back together when we have both moved on and we have both healed and grieved and processed this experience. We can come back together purely for the intention of reflection, of healing, of recognizing the growth that we had together. Like, how exciting could that be? Obviously, could mention that to them, could not, to just have that in your mind, right? Because I didn't push this, I didn't force this. He came to me and I responded to that. And then I also have exes that were unhealthy and toxic and borderline abusive, and I have absolutely no contact with them whatsoever, blocked and removed completely because there is no reason for this person to be in my life. And you get yourself to the space where you don't want this energy in your life. You don't want them to be encroaching in your space. You don't want to give them a more minute of your time. And I think that's the more obvious ones, right? The more obvious one. Or could not be. Like, I get it when you're in that space and you're still thinking if you could be friends, if you would be better as friends, maybe it wouldn't be so toxic. But I just want you to understand how this can unfold for you and if this is the best thing for you. So let's bring a little bit of attachment styles into here at the moment, because what I want to say about the more avoidant person is that they will try to develop that friendship because they may think that you guys would be better as friends. And the way that they are in regards to their fear of intimacy is they may even feel more relaxed and safe around you if you know that you're just friends. Because now there's no pressure, because now there's no sense of suffocating and entrapment because I'm not in a relationship with this person. Now I can relax and I can be myself. Now, for the more anxious person who's agreed to this dynamic because you want to keep that closeness and connection, you might observe that and see that as a sign of them wanting you back or wanting to work on the relationship when really it's just because they have in their head that they can be safe around you now that you're not in a relationship. They may also be keeping you around for other reasons to get their needs met, to have their ego stroked, that if they get rejected by someone that they're trying to date or they're feeling lonely or whatever, that they can just call you. They can just call you, you'll come around or you'll talk with them on the phone or you'll engage in text messages and stroke their ego. And then once they got their needs met and their ego has been stroked, they're gone again, leaving you thinking, what? I thought that we were connecting so well, and now you're gone again, and now I'm feeling hurt, and I just don't know what this is. And it just repeats itself as a cycle. So I want you to notice what's happening to in the dynamic if it is a more avoidant partner that you're dealing with, or a more anxious one. If this anxious one is really pushing for the friendship, and you know that actually the best thing for you is to take that space and maybe reconnect when and if you would both be ready for that. So let's summarize this up, my loves, in a very clear pros and cons of whether you are ready to move forward into a friendship with your ex or not. So some major things to look for when it comes to maybe this is not the best idea for you guys is if there is still a sexual charge that you feel when you're around them, like you want to have intimacy with them. If you are making the decision from a space of fear that you're going to lose them completely, if there is any guilt coming up that you should possibly keep them around or you should keep in contact for whatever reason, and maybe they are the mutual things like pets or children, but you're doing it out of a space of guilt. If there is a secret hope that maybe you guys will get back together, or he will or she will see that they've made a mistake, and when they see how amazing and detached you are, that you will be able to come back together. If you're feeling any type of jealousy around thoughts of them moving on to new partners or moving on in life in general, if you feel still somewhat attached to them, so you're still looking out for their text messages, you're still feeling a little bit hurt and bruised if they take distance or they say something or change something and they're not acting as if you are still romantic partners. But if there's one thing you're going to take away from this is just always be checking in with your body, how you are feeling around them. That is your signal. That is your answer right there. And it may not be the answer that you want to hear. You may have come onto this episode with tips and ways that you can develop this friendship with this ex that you still have feelings for, but I'm just going to give you the truth, my love. Space is required. You can't force this. And this is a form of self-abandonment. I cannot stress that enough after being there multiple times myself. It's just going to prolong the suffering and pain that comes with separation because it's not easy. And I know that we want to have the comfort and the safety of this person because it's such a massive transition in life to go from being in a relationship with someone and having your life be a certain way and the plans and the visions that you had for this person and for your life to now it's blown up into a million pieces and you feel so uncertain and so unsafe and so overwhelmed and so alone that you just want this person because once upon a time they were your person, they were your comfort, they were your strength, they were your everything. I get it. I really get it. I know it's not easy. I'm not trying to paint it as such. It's so hard, but I just want to know that you're not alone in this, and this is so normal for you to feel, and to know that you can do this, that to remind you that if you go into a space of no contact, and I know it's going to be so painful, but in the long run, this is going to be the best thing that you can do for yourself, and your life will completely transform from that space. I promise you, if you give yourself that space. And and then when we're thinking about to be friends with our ex, things to look out for that are the green flags. I get the and when we are considering being, and then there's the consideration of whether a friendship with the ex is the right thing. So the green flags to look out for when being friends can work is that the relationship ended with mutual respect. There was no abuse or toxicity about the relationship itself. So it didn't end with like betrayal or abuse. There was possibly some distance where you were able to process, to come back to your center, distance and healing, and that you did this out of love for each other, that you genuinely want the best for this person, and there's no feelings of attachment or jealousy or guilt or any of the ones that I've mentioned, but instead it's replaced with this feeling of I want the best for you. I still love you. Maybe it's in a different capacity now, but whatever is best for you and I, this is how we need to move forward. There's no romantic or sexual charge when you're around them. You don't feel that in the body. You don't want to move into being intimate with this person. And both of you have moved on and you're honest about that. And if they're dating again, that doesn't trigger you in a massive way and you feel relaxed around them, you don't feel activated and you're not spiraling. This, what I will say to just summarize all this up and bringing it back to my personal journey is being friends with an ex was not something that I could do when I was anxiously attached. It just was not possible because of the way that the attachment system in me was wired, and it was wired for connection regardless. And I didn't know how to get that with myself. I outsourced everything. And because I outsourced everything to that partner, I was expecting things to stay the same as they were. I was just not in a space where I could have that level of detachment with someone I was so intimate with. And I think when we meet ourselves in that space with love and acceptance and compassion, that in and of itself, you're on your way to becoming more securely attached because you're recognizing that this is just not a possible scenario for you right now. And that's okay to have that rule that I'm just not friends with my ex. It's not because you're being too dramatic. It's not because you're not mature enough. You're having your own back in that moment of what is best for you. You are being honest with yourself instead of pushing and forcing something that is not right. So don't let anybody tell you that you're not being mature because you can't develop a friendship with your ex. Absolutely not. And if and when you get there, that would be great, but don't like, and even if you do feel like you're reaching a space of becoming more securely attached, I still want you to have the same level of discernment and honesty with yourself. Now you're more securely attached doesn't mean that you need to be friends with your exes. Again, come back to what's your truth. What are your values? Will this friendship add to your life? Is it aligned with who you are becoming? Is this person aligned with who you are becoming, or are they better off staying in the past? Not everybody needs to come into your future with you. And I know that can be really sad, but in time you will recognize and you will see why this person had to remain in the past. Because when I look at this ex of mine, that I tried to develop a friendship with. He's a great person, don't get me wrong. But there were ways that we were weighing each other down and restricting ourselves. And he doesn't necessarily fit into my life now. It's just, that's it. And I would say I'm securely attached doesn't mean that I need to now make him my friend. It doesn't. But we had a beautiful conversation, and that's all it needs to be. So at the end of the day, discernment, honesty, autonomy are all these aspects of the secure attachment I want you to embody when it comes to making this decision. So I hope that really supports you in making your decision and gaining some clarity around whether friendships with exes is something that you want to go forward with or want to set boundaries around. If you do need any extra support, you know where to find me. You can DM me on Instagram or respond with a comment on this podcast and let me know what your insights were, your breakthroughs. As always, I love to hear from you. You can join me on an IGTV live on my Instagram later on this week to talk it all out, to ask your questions if you're still feeling a little bit confused and overwhelmed and I haven't touched upon maybe something that you're personally moving through. I would love for you to join me on that live so we can connect and I can answer your questions. Or, like I said, shoot me a DM privately. Thank you so much for being here, my loves, and I'll see you next time on the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast. If you really enjoyed this episode, it would really mean a lot to me if you was to share this episode with a friend who really needs to hear what has been talked about today, and also to rate and review this podcast. Hit that subscribe or follow button so you don't miss any new episodes coming out. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode.